The tournament arena on Meridian Prime was the most advanced combat simulation chamber in the known galaxy. The walls displayed pure white light, and the floor was made of adaptive material that could change to any surface in seconds. Thousands of spectators from different alien species sat in the observation deck, waiting for the main event. The Galactic Council members sat in the highest seats, including the royal family. Princess of the stood at one end of the arena. Her crystalline skin caught the light and reflected it in beautiful patterns of blue and silver. She was tall, graceful, and her movements showed confidence that came from 3,000 years of her people dominating the galaxy. Her body was built for combat, with perfect muscle structure and a mind that processed information faster than any computer. She looked at her opponent without any expression of concern. Captain Jake stood at the other end of the arena. He was a human male in his late 30s with a strong build and a face that told stories of many battles. His eyes were sharp and focused, but his body looked smaller compared to. His muscles were not as impressive as hers, and his skin was just regular human flesh without any special properties. To everyone watching, he seemed like a weak fighter facing a superior opponent. The Crown Prince's brother sat in the royal section and smiled with amusement. He had suggested this tournament and the wager that came with it. He had offered a simple deal. If she lost to the human fighter, she would spend one night in his quarters as a sign of respect between their species. The Crown Prince did not believe would lose. No had ever lost to a human in combat. Was not worried at all. She looked at the human fighter and thought about how easy this would be. She had trained for 2 centuries. She had fought enemies on 100 different worlds. She had defeated warriors from species that were considered strong and dangerous. This human was new to space travel. His technology was generations behind hers. His species had only recently joined the galactic community. This would be a quick victory. Jake, on the other hand, was very concerned. He knew he was facing the most advanced warrior he had ever encountered. He had studied everything he could about them. He knew their strength, their speed, and their tactical training. But he also knew something that did not understand. He knew how humans survived. The match started with a signal from the referee, moved forward with incredible speed. She tried to attack Jake with a move that had never been defended against before, but Jake did not try to match her speed. Instead, he moved sideways, let her pass, and used her own momentum against her. Was surprised but continued with another attack. This time she tried a different approach, using her superior strength to force Jake to the ground. Jake felt the power of her attack and his ribs hurt from the impact, but he did not break. His human body was made to survive in harsh conditions. He had grown up on Earth, a world where everything was dangerous. He could survive pain that would break other species. He got back up and kept fighting. For 10 minutes they fought in the arena, became angry because Jake would not stay down. She would hit him and he would come back. She would push him down and he would stand up again. Her attacks were perfect, but her opponent would not accept defeat. He would not quit. He would not break. Jake studied every move made. He noticed that her movements followed a pattern. Her species was so advanced and so trained that they always fought in logical ways. They never did something unexpected or unpredictable. They never fought without a plan. Jake, however, had fought in street battles and wars where nothing was predictable. He had survived by doing things that no one expected. In the final moment of the match, Jake pretended to be tired and weak. He let his guard down and showed an opening that seemed too good to be true, took the opportunity and moved forward for what she thought would be the final attack. But Jake had planned this. He moved in a way that was not logical. He moved in a way that I would never expect. He used his arms in a way that broke all the rules of advanced combat technique. Jake grabbed and threw her to the ground with all his strength. He pinned her down with his full body weight. The referee watched carefully and then declared Jake the winner of the match. The entire arena became silent. No one could believe what they had seen. The greatest warrior of a princess who had never lost, had been defeated by a human fighter. The human spectators stood up and cheered loudly. The alien species in the stands began to discuss what they had witnessed. The royal family looked shocked and angry. Felt the anger rising inside her. She had been defeated in front of the entire Galactic Council. Her pride was broken. She had been pinned to the ground by a weaker opponent. The Crown Prince looked down at her with amusement. He pointed at Jake and then reminding her of the wager that she had agreed to. Princess had to honor the agreement. The code of honor was more important than her feelings. She stood up from the ground, looked at Jake with cold eyes, and spoke in a voice without emotion. She told him that she would meet him in his quarters at sunset. She told him that she would honor the wager because her family's honor was important to her. Jake helped her stand up, and for a moment, their eyes met. He could see the anger in her eyes, but he could also see something else. He could see the intelligence of someone who had just learned something new. He could see someone who had lost something that they thought could never be lost. The sun set on Meridian Prime, and Princess walked toward Jake's quarters with her head held high, ready to spend a night that would change her understanding of strength forever. Jake's quarters were small and simple. The walls were white metal, and the furniture was basic and functional. There was a bed, a table with 2 chairs, and a small window that looked out into the space station. The room was clean, but nothing like the luxury that Princess was used to. Her family lived in palaces, made of materials worth more than entire human cities. Entered the room and looked around with no expression on her face. Jake stood by the window and did not move toward her. He knew that was angry and humiliated. He could see the tension in her crystalline body. He knew that the worst thing he could do was to act like he had won something special or that she meant nothing to him. "The bed is yours," Jake said in a simple voice. "I will sleep on the floor." Looked at him with surprise in her eyes. She had expected him to be proud and boastful. She had expected him to enjoy her suffering. Instead, he was offering her comfort and respect. This confused her more than if he had acted like a victor. "I do not require your comfort," said in a cold voice. "I am here because of honor, nothing more." Jake nodded and did not argue. He got some blankets from a storage unit and arranged them on the floor near the wall. He created a simple sleeping space for himself, far away from where would rest. He moved with purpose but without any arrogance or pride. As the night grew darker, neither of them slept. Sat on the bed with her arms crossed, looking at the wall. Jake sat on the floor with his back against the wall, looking at nothing in particular. The silence between them was heavy with questions that neither of them wanted to ask. After a long time, spoke. Her voice was different now, less cold and more curious. She asked Jake why he had fought the way he fought. She asked why he did not try to match her strength or speed. She asked how a human could defeat a warrior. Jake took a moment before answering. He did not turn to look at her, but he spoke in a voice that was honest and without pride. "Humans come from a world called Earth," Jake began. "It is a dangerous place. The weather can kill you. The animals can kill you. Other humans can kill you. When you grow up on such a world, you learn that strength alone does not keep you alive. You learn that you must be clever. You must adapt. You must change your plans when things do not go as expected." Listen to his words. She had never heard anyone explain human nature before. Jake continued his explanation. "I learned in my first battles that I could never be as strong as my enemies, so I learned to be smarter. I learned to study my opponent and find their weakness. I learned that every warrior, no matter how advanced, follows patterns. I learned that the moment someone expects you to follow the rules is the moment you break the rules and do something they never predicted." Moved slightly closer to the edge of the bed. She was thinking about his words and what they meant. She had spent 200 years training in the most advanced combat techniques in the galaxy, but her training had taught her to be perfect. Her training had taught her that there was one right way to fight. Her opponent had shown her that this was not true. "You told me something with your victory," said. "You showed me that my way is not the only way. This is not comfortable knowledge." Jake turned to look at her for the first time. He could see that she was not angry anymore. She was confused and perhaps a little bit humble. This was a new expression for a princess who had never lost. "I lost someone I loved because I thought strength was everything," Jake said, and his voice became sad. "My sister was on a colony world. Pirates attacked without warning. The world had good defenses, but the pirates had superior firepower. Everyone thought defense was impossible. Everyone gave up and accepted their death. My sister tried to run instead. She tried to adapt and survive, but it was not enough." Felt something strange happen inside her. She felt sadness for this human who had lost his family member. She understood loss. Every warrior lost someone important eventually. She understood the pain of that loss. "I joined the Earth Defense Fleet after that," Jake continued. "I told myself I would become strong enough that no one else would lose their family members. But I learned something different. I learned that strength without wisdom is just destruction. I learned that the best way to protect people is to be unpredictable and to never accept that the situation is hopeless." Asked him about his sister's name. Jake told her that her name was Emma and she had wanted to be an artist. He told her that she had dreamed of creating beautiful things, but she never got the chance. He told her that every time he fought so that other people could pursue their dreams. For the first time, understood that humans were not weak. They were different. They had a kind of strength that did not come from physical power or superior technology. They had strength that came from refusing to give up and from caring about other people. As the night continued, they talked more. Told Jake about her family responsibilities and the weight of expectations that came with being a royal member of the most advanced species in the galaxy. She explained that she had always been expected to be perfect and superior. She explained that there was no one to compete with her, no one to challenge her, and no one to help her understand if she was doing the right thing. Jake understood that her victory in the tournament was not really a victory about combat. It was a victory about showing her that the world was bigger and more complex than she had believed. As sunrise came to Meridian Prime, both and Jake understood something new. They had both learned that strength comes in many forms. They had both learned that a true warrior is not just someone who can defeat others in combat, but someone who can adapt, grow, and change when they encounter something they do not understand. Stood to leave the quarters. She looked at Jake and spoke with genuine respect in her voice. She thanked him for treating her with honor when he could have treated her with contempt. She told him that the night had taught her more than 200 years of training ever had. Jake bowed slightly, showing his respect for her wisdom and her willingness to listen and learn, and Jake had barely finished their breakfast together in the station's dining area when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed on all the walls, and a voice filled the corridors announcing an emergency. A major attack was happening at Station, a human colony world located at the edge of territory. Hundreds of ships were burning. Thousands of colonists were dead. Commander Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet rushed into the meeting room where Jake was already present. She looked serious and frightened. She showed Jake images of the attack. The ships that had attacked Station bore the colors of the military. They were warships, and they had struck with brutal force. The colony had no time to defend itself. Many families had died in the first few minutes of the attack. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. He looked at the images of destroyed buildings and dead colonists. He thought about Emma and how she had died. He thought about other families who had suffered the same loss, but before he could speak, entered the meeting room. She looked shocked and horrified when she saw the images on the screen. "This cannot be true," said immediately. "The do not attack colonies without justification. This is not the law of my people." Commander Hayes looked at with suspicion. She was a human commander, and she had no reason to trust an alien princess, even if that princess had just spent the night in a human's quarters. "We have confirmed evidence that these were ships," Hayes said. "We have recorded their communications. We have identified their weapon signatures. There is no mistake. Your people attacked a peaceful colony and killed civilians. Looked at the images and felt a deep sense of wrongness. Something about this attack did not match what she knew about policy. They were powerful and arrogant, but they followed rules and codes. They did not attack without reason. I request permission to investigate this matter, said. If forces are responsible, there must be more to this story. Jake suddenly understood something. He looked at and spoke directly to her. He told her that he would help her investigate, even though it was against protocol for a human to become involved in internal matters. Why would you help me? Asked. Humans have no obligation to my people. Because, Jake said, looking directly into her crystalline eyes, last night you taught me that they are more complex than I believed. Now let me help you discover what is really happening here. Commander Hayes objected immediately. She told Jake that he could not become involved in an alien conflict. She told him that his duty was to Earth and to the human colonies. But Jake knew something that the commander did not fully understand. He knew that if they attacked humans, it was not because of random violence. It was because someone wanted war. And if someone wanted war, it meant there was a conspiracy. And if there was a conspiracy, it meant the real enemy was not the people but someone specific within their ranks. And Jake left the meeting and went directly to the station's security archive. They accessed the detailed sensor data from the attack. Jake studied the flight patterns of the attacking ships. He noticed something small but important. The ships had not traveled directly from the main. They had traveled from a hidden facility in the outer reaches of space. Jake pointed this out too. He told her that this meant the attack was not authorized by the main government. It meant someone was hiding the operation from official oversight. His face showed understanding and anger. She knew only one person who had the power and the desire to attack humans without official approval. She spoke his name with hatred in her voice. Prince, she said, my cousin. He has always believed that humans would destroy our civilization from within. Explained to Jake that was part of the royal family but had never had as much power as he wanted. He had wanted to be king, but her brother had been chosen instead. Had become bitter and angry. He had gathered followers who believed that the only way to protect them was to eliminate all threats, including humans. Jake and found more evidence hidden in the station's records. They discovered that had been in secret communications with the Dominion, a hostile alien empire that lived on the other side of the galaxy. They had always wanted to expand their territory and gain access to human technology. A deal had been made, would help the attack human colonies and gain knowledge about human defenses. In return, they would help eliminate anyone who opposed him within the government. This is not just a military attack, Jake explained. This is the beginning of a larger war, wants to force the Inhumans into a conflict so terrible that both species will be destroyed or weakened beyond recovery. Knew that she had to tell her brother about this immediately. She had to present him with the evidence and force him to take action. But she also knew that would not wait for the government to move slowly. He would attack again soon. Jake suggested that they contact the Earth Defense Fleet and prepare for battle while went to the government with her evidence. Accepted this plan, but she made Jake promise that he would stay alive during whatever battle came next. I promise to help you learn what humans are really like, said. I do not want to complete this lesson by watching you die. Jake promised her that he would do his best to survive, but he also told her the truth. In war, survival was never certain. All anyone could do was fight for what they believed in and hope that their actions would prevent more deaths in the future. Boarded a small ship and traveled to the main. Jake returned to the human fleet and began preparing the ships for battle. They both knew that the wager had transformed into something much larger than a simple night of honor between a human and an alien princess. It had transformed into a battle that would decide the fate of entire civilizations. The storm was coming, and neither of them was certain that they would survive what was about to happen, stood in the throne room of the capital city. The walls around her were made of crystalline material that matched her own skin. The room was filled with representatives of the highest ranks of society. The crown prince sat on the throne, and her mother, the empress, stood at his side, presented the evidence that she and Jake had discovered. She showed them the data from the hidden facility. She showed them the communications with the Dominion. She showed them the financial records that proved had been preparing this attack for years. The crown prince listened carefully to everything said, but he did not respond with anger or quick action. Instead, he looked sad and uncertain. He told that he did not want to believe that their cousin had betrayed the family and the people. "I understand your feelings," said, speaking directly to her brother. "But if we do not act now, we'll attack again. More humans will die, more colonies will be destroyed, and they will gain access to human technology and military secrets." The Empress stepped forward and looked at her daughter with concern. She asked if she was certain about this information, and she asked why was putting so much effort into protecting humans when her own people needed protection. Took a moment before answering. She spoke the truth in her heart. She told her mother that she had discovered something during her time with the human fighter Jake. She told them that humans possessed something that they had lost. They possessed determination that would not break, and they possessed creativity that refused to accept that defeat was inevitable. "The human captain showed me that strength is not just about power," explained. "Strength is about never giving up, even when the odds seem impossible. If we do not help the humans now, we will lose the chance to become their allies. We will lose the chance to learn from them and to grow beyond what we have become." The crown prince stood from the throne and placed his hand on shoulder. He told her that he believed her, and he told her that he was sorry that he had doubted her. He ordered his generals to prepare the military for immediate action. He sent soldiers to arrest Prince and his followers. However, they were too late. Before the soldiers could reach his secret headquarters, he activated his plan. 3 heavy warships launched from hidden bases throughout space. They moved toward station at top speed, preparing for a second wave of attacks that would be more devastating than the first. Sent a message to the government before he jumped into space. In the message, he declared that the government had betrayed their own people by allowing humans to exist. He told the galaxy that he was taking action to protect supremacy. He announced that the Dominion would join the attack and that nothing could stop their combined military power. The crown prince was furious when he heard this message. He immediately contacted Commander Hayes and told her that warships would be moving to defend station. He told her that was acting without authorization and that the government stood with the humans. Jake was already in his fighter ship when the communication arrived. He had been preparing the human defense fleet for hours. He had positioned his ships in a defensive pattern around the colony. He had moved civilian transports to safe locations and prepared escape routes in case the defense failed. When he heard that warships were coming to defend station, Jake felt hope rise in his chest. He had not expected the government to act so quickly or to choose the side of humans. But this changed everything about the coming battle. Jake contacted through a private communication channel. He asked her if she was safe and if she had protected herself from harm. "I am on a military transport heading to the battle," replied. "I will coordinate our forces directly with you. We will face this enemy together." Jake smiled even though could not see his face. He told her to be careful, and he told her that he looked forward to fighting beside her. The battle began when the 3 warships under his command reached station. They came in fast, trying to overwhelm the human defense fleet with superior firepower and military tactics. But they did not expect to face human fighters and warships fighting together in the same battle. Jake commanded his human fighter squadron with perfect skill. He positioned his fastest ships to intercept the attack on the colonial buildings. He used the smaller, more flexible human ships to attack the heavy warships at their weak points. He knew that human fighters could not match firepower directly, so he used speed and adaptability instead. Coordinated the forces from her command station. She positioned the 3 heavy warships to block the direct path to the colony. She used their superior firepower to target the ships that had arrived to support its attack. She made decisions that were logical and effective, but she also took risks that were based on understanding the human way of thinking. The battle lasted for 2 hours, and it was more intense than anything Jake or had ever experienced. Ships were destroyed. Soldiers died. The sky above station filled with explosions and weapons fire, but the human and forces continued to fight with determination and skill. Prince realized that he was losing the battle. His ships were damaged. His allies were being defeated. He made a final decision that showed his desperation and his pride. He pushed his remaining warship toward the colony itself, preparing to crash it into the main settlement and destroy evidence of his conspiracy along with thousands of innocent people. Jake saw this move and immediately understood what was planning. He took his fighter ship and moved directly towards warship. He knew that he could not match the power of a heavy military vessel, but he could do something that would never expect. He could do something unpredictable. Jake accelerated his fighter to maximum speed and changed his flight path in a way that seemed random and illogical. He fired his weapons continuously at the same precise location on ship. The location was not the main reactor. It was not the command center. It was the shield generator that protected the main structure. Jake's weapons hit the shield generator repeatedly. The shields began to fail. As the shields weakened, Jake made a final move. He launched his entire supply of missiles at the same location. The missiles struck true and the shield generator exploded. Without its shields, its warship became vulnerable. The heavy cruisers above the colony took advantage of this moment. They fired their most powerful weapons. The enemy warship was destroyed in a massive explosion that lit up the sky above station. Jake's fighter was caught in the edge of the explosion. His ship was damaged severely, and his systems were failing. He managed to steer his dying ship away from the colony and toward open space. His fighter fell toward the planet's atmosphere, and Jake lost consciousness as his ship began to burn. The battle ended immediately after his death. The forces realized that their advantage was gone, and they retreated back to their own territory. The forces under his command did not pursue them. They focused instead on rescue operations and saving lives. His first action after the battle was to find Jake's fighter ship. She coordinated a rescue team and personally searched the wreckage. She found Jake unconscious but alive. She held him carefully and told him that he had survived, that he had won, and that they would not lose him today. Jake woke up in a medical facility 3 days after the battle. His body was covered with bandages, and his ribs were broken in 3 places. Medical machines were attached to his arms and chest, monitoring his condition. But he was alive. He had survived. Was sitting in a chair beside his bed when he opened his eyes. She had been waiting there almost constantly since the rescue team had pulled him from the wreckage of his destroyed fighter. She had not slept much. She had barely left his side. When she saw that Jake was awake, she spoke in a voice that mixed relief with something deeper that she could not express in words. "The battle is over," said. "You destroyed its warship. The forces have retreated. The colony is saved. Thousands of humans are alive because of your actions." Jake tried to smile, but the pain in his ribs prevented him from moving too much. He asked if she was injured, and he asked about the condition of the forces. Told him that the losses had been significant but could have been much worse. She told him that the military was recovering, and that the government was now planning how to deal with followers who had supported his conspiracy. Over the next week, Jake recovered slowly in the medical facility. Visited him every day, and they talked about the battle and about the future. Jake asked her what would happen now between the humans and the... He asked if her government would still see humans as inferior beings who needed to be controlled. Told him that everything had changed. She said that her mother, the Empress, wanted to meet with him personally. She said that the Empress wanted to understand the species that had proven itself capable of defeating an enemy that they had believed was all-powerful. When Jake was well enough to travel, brought him to the main. They traveled through a series of transport ships and finally arrived at the Imperial Palace. The palace was constructed from materials that seemed to be made of pure light and crystal. It was the most beautiful structure that Jake had ever seen. The Empress was waiting in the main throne room. She was tall, even taller than, and her crystalline skin seemed to glow with an inner light. She looked at Jake with eyes that were ancient and wise. She had ruled for 300 years, and she had made decisions that had affected billions of lives across the entire galaxy. "I have reviewed the data from the battle," the Empress said, speaking directly to Jake. "I have studied the decisions you made and the tactics you used. I have observed your species' behavior for years, but I did not understand until now. I did not understand what made you human." The Empress walked slowly around Jake, examining him carefully. She told him that humans were physically weaker than every other intelligent species in the galaxy. She told him that human technology was inferior to technology by generations. She told him that humans had inferior strength, inferior intelligence processors, and inferior weapons. "And yet," the Empress continued, "a human fighter destroyed a military vessel that was 3,000 times larger than his own fighter. A human officer made decisions that confused my best generals. A human species, barely more than a century old in space travel, proved itself capable of standing beside thee and fighting as equals." Jake did not know what to say. He stood before the most powerful being in the galaxy, and he felt very small and insignificant. "I understand now what you possess," the Empress said. "You possess something that we have lost. You possess the ability to adapt to change, and to never accept that a situation is impossible. You possess determination that comes not from superiority but from struggle. You possess a kind of strength that cannot be measured by weapons or technology." The Empress raised her hand and made an official declaration. She stated that Earth and the human species were now recognized as full and equal members of the Galactic Council. She declared that humans would have the same standing as any other species, including the. She announced that she was establishing formal relations between the government and the Earth Defense Fleet. She then made another announcement that surprised everyone in the throne room. She requested that both Jake and Princess serve as official ambassadors to represent their species to each other. She told them that their job would be to build understanding and friendship between humans and the. Jake and looked at each other. They did not speak, but they understood what the Empress was asking. They were being asked to represent the connection that had begun with a wager and a tournament. They were being asked to show that beings from different species could respect each other and work together. "We accept," said, and Jake nodded his agreement. The ceremony lasted for hours. The Empress presented them with official badges that identified them as ambassadors of their respective species. She gave them access to the resources of the government and the Earth Defense Fleet. She told them that their mission was to ensure that what had been learned in the battle above station would be remembered and would shape the future relationship between the two species. When the ceremony was finished, Jake and walked together through the corridors of the Imperial Palace. They did not speak much, but they walked side by side, and they understood that their connection was real and deep. "I lost something in that tournament," said as they walked. "I lost the belief that my species was automatically superior. I lost the comfort of believing that I understood the universe." Jake listened and allowed her to continue speaking. "But I gained something more valuable," said. "I gained the understanding that strength comes in many forms. I gained a friend who showed me that courage is not about how strong you are, but about what you choose to do when you know you might lose." Jake smiled and placed his hand on her shoulder. He told her that he had learned something as well. He told her that he had learned that intelligence and capability were not the same thing as arrogance. He told her that he had learned that despite their power, were still capable of growth and change. They emerged from the palace into the bright light of the sun. The sky was a deep purple color, and the air was warm and pleasant. Around them, the city spread out in all directions, with structures of crystal and light reaching toward the sky. Together, they walked down a wide avenue, and they understood that they were walking into a future that neither of them could have predicted when they first met in the tournament arena. They were walking toward a future where humans would learn from each other, would help each other, and would prove to the entire galaxy that respect and understanding could cross the distance between species, between worlds, and between the different kinds of strength that each civilization possessed. The sun continued to shine on them as they walked forward, and they both knew that everything in the galaxy was about to change. The age of humans being seen as weaker beings was over. The age of superiority was ending. A new age was beginning, one where different species could stand together as equals and face the challenges of the universe with wisdom and strength combined.